Hi everyone, we are back and this is the Super Series once again, 2022. This is round 2. We are out at the Bend Motorsport Park at Tailem Bend. Round 1 was a team time trial. My team was a bit short-handed. We only had 5 riders and so we came 7th, which is pretty good considering we were up against teams with 8. But here we are, a game with 6 riders now because Webby turned up. We've got 6 riders and this is a 9-lap race of a 7 or 8 kilometre circuit. The circuit itself is a motorcycle circuit, and so it's wide, it's fast, it's not technical, and it's pretty flat. The road surface is fantastic, and unfortunately, in my view, that makes for pretty boring racing. The big teams we've got here are Renbeer, who's the guy ahead of me, and also in the rear camera. We've got ADX in the green, we've got Norwood blue, GRA in the red tops, and Knights of Suburbia in the colourful tops just ahead of me now. There's a couple of individual riders as well, and there's also Butterfields or JKT, including Lockie Ambrose, whose enormous wheels are just passing on the left now. And of course you can't forget Black Chrome Cycling in the light blue tops with Clark Rubber himself sitting just behind me. We're about halfway through the race. There's been a few attacks so far, but nothing stuck. At this point, with about 50 minutes on the clock, we see a fairly big attack going up the road. First of all, 4 guys get up the road and then 4 more follow, and unfortunately at this point we're not represented. As we come around this corner I can see that there's none of us in this group. Art, who's in the rocket kit and the sunset arms just up 3 wheels ahead of me, he's been chasing everything back all day, so he's probably a bit exhausted. And seeing the big group going up, I decide that it's time for me to actually do some work. So I light up an attack as if I'm going to bridge over, and just as I do, Webby from my team also attacks. Now Webby's a much stronger breakaway rider than me, but I'm not sure if he's going to get across. And I'm probably making a bit of a mistake here by continuing to chase, but my thought process was if he gets up the road or if he looks like he's going to make it across, I'll pull the parachutes. If he doesn't, then I'll bridge up to him and I'll leapfrog him. He does look like he's going to get across, so I do pull the parachutes and get out of the line, but at that point I've already dragged a couple of other riders pretty close to him. Fortunately, no one manages to get to him. He does make it across, and Big Break gets a bit of leeway. Now, I just want to highlight how quickly the race can change. If you look over here, you can see the brake's got maybe 30 seconds gap. We are at, 37.8 kilometres into the race. I'm just going to jump ahead about a kilometre, and you'll see how quickly that gap closes. I've just gone to 39 kilometres even on the board, and as you come around the corner you can see that entire gap's been closed and everything's back together again. So this is the problem, I think, with this track. It's so wide open, the view is so clear the whole way around the track, you just can't get out of sight, and so it's pretty hard for any breakaway to stay away unless every single team's represented and everyone's sitting up. If there's any effort to chase at all, it's going to come back. So we're in the last lap. There's been lots and lots of small attacks. We've done a lot of work trying to chase them down, and nothing's really stayed away. This solo rider on the right's just coming back, and then I think this is Nick Underwood from ADX attacking on the right. Nick Underwood is a really crafty rider, and he's well and truly able to get away with a lap to go. So at this point, we're forced to do some work on the front. The strategy for our team at this point has been for 3 of our riders, Orlando, Art, and Webby, to do all the chasing between the 3 of them. The idea was that Craig and Alistair would keep themselves fresh, and then lead me out in the finish if that's what it got to. Both Craig and Alistair have a fantastic sprint, and so if either, or better yet, both of them can be in front of me, leading me out in the last sort of 500 metres, we've got a really good shot of me ending up in a good position to do a proper sprint. But here with 1 lap to go, we've got a solo rider up the road, and we've got a couple more people who eventually go and join. And so that does mean that we have to do a bit more chasing than hoped. Art, who's been chasing all day, chasing everything, does another big job to bring this back, but in the end Craig has to go up to the front as well and do some more work to bridge it together. Unfortunately, one of the groups that got up had most of the teams represented except us, which did force us to do a bit more work than we hoped. So here we are coming in with about a quarter of a lap to go, and we actually do a pretty good job of getting into colour order. Art's just ahead of me, and he does a really good job of moving me up to the front. Craig, with the black helmet's behind me, and Alistair's just behind him. As we come around this corner, I'm letting Art know that I'm here. At this point, I didn't know that Craig was behind me, and I certainly didn't know that Alistair was there, but we're getting in the right order, or we're getting at least all together towards the end. Art pulls another mammoth turn to bring me to the front. Now, again, Art's been chasing all day, so this is seriously a big effort, and then Craig goes to the front to try to bridge this last effort. Now with a quarter of a lap to go, there's 3 riders up the road, and so Craig perhaps goes a little bit early, but he hops on the front to try to bring them back. I think we probably could have let other teams do this bit of chasing. I don't think we needed to be the ones bringing back every single move. We probably did more than we needed to. But here we are. We're in, less than 2Ks to the finish, and Craig has closed down absolutely everything. And at this point, it's clear it's going to be a sprint, unless someone can make some mammoth effort and get up the road by themselves, which is just unlikely to happen with all the teams with their sprinters wanting to bring it to the end. Now, the plan was for Craig to be in front of Alistair to be in front of me, and so the fact that Craig's on the front here is probably a mistake. He's doing a huge effort. I'm 3 wheels back, and I'm having to kick it up to 300 watts around this corner, and punching out of it. Art's beginning to lose Craig's wheel. I'm doing 450 watts, and we've still got, the last straight to go. What should have happened is Art should have been on the front at this point. Craig should have been starting his turn. Or at this point, with Craig gapping, Art could have just sat up entirely and let Craig go for a bit of a solo. That would have forced other teams to hop on and try to chase him back. Anyway, we're here and we're coming down the final straight, and Art's doing absolutely everything he can, but when the sprint trains go, there's nothing he can do, and I've got to freelance. And unfortunately, the sprint trains come past so quickly that when I do kick up for what's one of my better sprints, I'm just sprinting through the melee, and I've had to sit in the wind all the way through. Now, I managed to get through to 6th, but there are some clear problems that we had here when compared to the sprint trains. So jumping back to when Craig gets on the front, we've got 3 guides at the front. That's fantastic, but we've got a full kilometre until the finish, and that's too far. Craig should have been there in the last 500 metres with Alistair in front of him, but with just the 2 of them in front of me, with a whole K to go, there's no way that we're going to be able to really set up a lead out in that last 300 metres. The second issue we had here is that Art, who's been chasing all day, this is not meant to be his role. He's letting a gap open up to Craig. Craig's just done such an awesome job trying to lead this out, but he's gone too hard and he's split the train. We probably could have communicated better at this point, but unfortunately then all I can do is sing out to Art to go as hard as he can, and we're now at 300 metres to go, and that's just too long for me to sprint by myself. And with a couple of these people with sprint lead-outs, or who had to launch, or who could launch a bit later, you got Mr. Clark Rubber on the right here, who once again finishes just 1 place behind me, but there was just too much to do. Huge props to Toby from Renbeer for getting the win. We'll see you in the next one.